Hello and welcome back to PoPCast.
Woohoo! Hello.
Hey, Whitney.
Hey.
How are you
How
doing
are
this fine day?
you? I'm good. It's chilly out, but not freezing, and it's sunny, and it's my kind of day. I like it.
It's
I like it when it's chilly and sunny.
we are for listeners, if you don't know, we are both Texans in different parts of Texas, but I can tell you if you haven't already figured it out by my voice by this far into the podcast episodes, I'm not a natural Texan. I've been here for a while,
Yes.
almost 20 years, but this is by far the best part of being in Texas is these winters. Ooh,
Yes.
so
Same.
nice.
Because where are
I
you from?
love it.
You're from Wisconsin?
I grew up in Wisconsin. Yes, that
Yes.
was my, yep, born and raised.
And I was born and raised in Wyoming. So we both grew up in cold, very cold environments.
Yeah, I escaped. I
Uh,
escaped winter. That was,
Same. Same.
yes.
I like to be outdoors when it's like it is today, chilly and sunny, not cold. Just need a little light jacket. You can just enjoy the sunshine.
Okay, so if it's cold, are you like me in that you are snuggling up with good books more often
Yes,
than you find in other seasons?
absolutely. In fact, before we start talking about books, the last time it snowed here, my husband and daughter went out to play in it, and I said, I'll watch, I'll watch from the window. And I stepped out for a minute and took some pictures of them and then came back in and just sat by the window and watched them. And they're like, "You're not going to come play in the snow with us?" And I went, "Nope. Been there, done that. I'm good. I prefer to
I
be
know the
under a
feels.
warm blanket with a really good book." So what are you reading right now, Travis?
Okay, really good book. So I do this thing where I get onto the Libby app and just check
Yes.
out like 10 books that get me really
Mhm.
excited and then work my way through them a little bit of time. And then yeah, I think ultimately most of them fall by the wayside.
Yes.
In that most recent round, I revisited a book that I had started reading a while ago and I think just lost because of where my life was at the time. The author is Cy Montgomery, and the book is The Soul of an Octopus. It's
Hmm.
a yeah nonfiction. Cy Montgomery interacts with octopuses, which
Hmm.
she explains why it's not octopi, why it's octopuses in the very beginning, which
Really?
I know.
Okay.
It's the change from singular to plural. I think adding that I is based maybe on Latin background, where octopus is Greek in it, where it came from. So they don't do that in
Okay.
Greek.
Good to know.
But it's just so intriguing and just such amazing detail. Very, I don't want to say humanizing, but just gives you a much broader understanding of like the complexity of an octopus in a very cool way. It's been
Okay, so
very
I love
interesting.
this then. Have you read Remarkably Bright Creatures?
No,
Okay,
I
that's a
have
novel.
not. Is that
You
going to be
need
a
to read that
follow-up?
after you finish this book about
Okay.
octopuses. Go read Remarkably Bright Creatures. It's by Shelby Van Pelt,
Okay.
and it is about an octopus. He is one of the main characters, and that's all
Great.
I'm going to tell you, but it is really a lot of fun to read. And actually, it's a great listen if
Oh,
you like to listen to books. I listened to it, and it was a lot of fun to listen to. Really fall in
my
love with
next
the
read.
octopus character.
Love it. Thank you.
Mm.
What about you?
Well, I always have three books going on, depending on
Yeah.
what. So I have my book at home that's like my hardbound book. And then I have my airplane and travel book, which is on my Kindle. And then I
Okay.
have my book in the car. So I always have three going on. And just depending on where I'm at in life is what I'm heavily reading at that moment. So my three books, actually, my hard book that I just finished, my hardbound book, it's not a hard book to read, but hardbound book is John Shoe's Louder Than Hunger. Have you read
Oh,
that yet, Travis?
yes. Yes. So
I just
good.
finished this. So good. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
So I don't know what my next read is going to be because I just finished it last night. The Briar Club by Kate Quinn. That's my airplane book.
okay.
So
Airplane.
that one has been a lot of fun um, reading that and just the house is the one that's telling the story. The house is the narrator. So it's
Ooh.
interesting, and it's a women's boarding house basically. So you get to learn all the characters through the house perspective. It's been interesting. I just started it. I'm not too far into it yet because I haven't been on that many airplanes lately. And then listening, I actually don't have anything listening right now because I've just been doing some podcasts. So those two right now. So really just Briar Club
Mm.
is what I'm currently reading since I just finished Louder Than Hunger. But I did go and see The Housemaid in the movie theater last week because I read
Okay.
that book and I loved that little
Oh my
thriller. And
gosh.
I felt that when I saw the casting for the movie that it was well cast. So my girlfriend and I went and watched that movie and really enjoyed it. Of course, the book is better always, but it was excellent.
I was just going to ask, so I'm glad that you already answered it. You already knew where I was going.
If you were going to
Worth it
ask if
to
the
read
book
the
is
book
better,
first or read the book after watching the movie?
I always like to read
Sometimes,
the books first. I will not
okay.
go see a movie if it's based on a book. I will not see it until I read the book. It's really important to me that I read the book
Yes.
first.
It's rare to me that I read a book and that I'm not disappointed by the movie.
The
It
movie
has
was good.
happened,
It
but
was
okay.
good. It
Okay.
was just as
Great.
crazy as the book. But of course, the book had more details than a movie could do. And
Thank you for the follow-ups. I'm sure, yeah, especially the thriller. My wife is going to love that if she
oh,
hasn't
yeah, if
already
she
read.
hasn't read Housemaid, she needs to read that. All of those Frida books are really good. So
I should know if she's read it already. I'm going to be in so much hot water if she listens to this episode. Okay.
if she hasn't, read it and then go see the movie. You can go with her. So it'd be a good date movie.
Great date movie. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I can get into that. Great. All right.
You'll love your marriage even more after that movie.
Always, yeah, by comparison, things are
Make you feel
great.
better. So,
Yes. All right, good.
okay.
I appreciate that you've given me some things to follow up on for reading. I'm
Yeah.
gonna
I think I
My
might
reading
check out your
journey
octopus book.
continues.
I don't read a lot of nonfiction, so that might be a good nonfiction book for me to read.
It's lovely, and it's just the description, the details, the action, the thinking, the people, all
Hmm.
developed so well. I'm
Hmm.
very impressed. Cy Montgomery, I think I'm gonna pop into Cy's work a little bit more after this as well.
Okay. I
Mhm.
like it.
All right, our episode today, we're going to focus in on conferencing. There's so much to say on conferencing, and we really want to focus this episode on the teacher to student conference. Teacher being a leader, facilitator, or just guiding that conference. We'll talk in a
Mhm.
follow-up episode about the student to student conferencing and how we can set those up, strengthen those as the year progresses. But today is a teacher to student conference episode. So let's talk
Mhm.
about our thinking around that. What's guided us before we get into the why, the how.
Yeah.
Talk about some of your
Well, I
guide.
think
Let's talk about that.
when it comes to conferencing, just I have just had so many amazing PD um, experiences around the teaching of writing and really this piece of small group instruction, small group conferencing, and one-on-one conferencing, and what that looks like. Lucy Calkins is one that has trained me in my past. The work of the writing project at that time really
Yeah.
completely changed the way that I taught writers. And that's the main thing that I learned from her is that we teach the writer, not the writing. And that came from Don Graves as well. And that our decisions that we make have to really be guided by what the writer as an individual is doing as opposed to what's expected in the writing itself. That's something that's has always stuck with me whenever I talk with kids is what are they doing as a writer and how can I grow them as a writer themselves? And so when it comes to conferring though, I think the master here is Carl Anderson. I have learned so much from him over the years about conferring and how to conduct writing conferences in a way that really is about the writer and what he can do, what he has taught me just to really think about growing writers through these conferences.
The same for me. Carl Anderson was definitely my touch point as I was
Mhm.
trying to navigate what should a writing conference be? What's the goal of it? In my experience as a learner, it was the let a teacher sit with my piece and mark it
Right.
up, and then I go back and fix
Exactly.
it.
Yes.
But that is definitely not his thinking. So I actually looked back at some of his thinking
Hmm.
to be able to pull something, and he had this like great quotable here talking about the writing conference and the thinking around it that helped really shift me and my thinking. When you confer with a student, it isn't your job to fix or edit the student's
Hmm.
writing. Rather, it's to teach the student one writing strategy or technique he or she can use in a current piece of writing and continue to use in future writing.
Yes.
The
Yes.
setup.
Something
Yes.
that today and every day, this is what you can do. You don't have to do it just now and be done with it, but this is a strategy I'm going to give you that can help you in anything that you do.
Yeah, there's that saying, that old saying, a colleague of mine used to tell me all the time. Are you teaching students or at when we were working with teachers,
Hmm.
are you teaching them to fish or are you giving them a fish? Are you just giving
Hmm.
them fix this one thing? Or are you teaching
Yep.
them something that's going to benefit them far beyond this one writing conference or this one teachable moment? Both of us are in agreement about that. And so our
Hmm.
conversation today is going to really focus in on that types of grammar, specifically grammar focused conferences. But as with last episode, you can replace the word grammar with a more broad writing focus. We want you to
Yes.
see that we can hone in on grammar just as easily as we could hone in on other elements of maybe the genre that we're writing in, other writing moves, figurative language, imagery, details, things like that.
Yeah. And I do get asked from time to time, oh, I've been told that I'm not allowed to have grammar conferences, that I'm only supposed to have conferences about their writing and what they're doing at the moment. And there is a time and place for grammar specific conferences, especially if that is something that is a goal or a self-reflection that you've been working on with that student, then absolutely that is a time to have that conversation. Just like we don't just wait until we see it in their writing to teach them about grammar either, that we're going to teach them about grammar throughout the entire year on a weekly basis. So conferences can absolutely be about grammar too. Does every conference need to be about grammar? Absolutely not. And I think that's the fine line that we have to take as teachers is it is very easy to make every conference about grammar and about mechanics and about fixing the writing. And I think that's important for us to remember is that these conferences are not about fixing the writing. And so even if we are focusing on grammar, it's not about fixing the grammar in that writing, but really about choosing the patterns that will make our writing more effective and how and
Hmm.
giving them strategies on how to do that as they think about the craft of their piece.
Let's get into the weeds a little bit, talk about some of the
Okay.
types of conferences we could have teacher to student. I think the first that comes to mind for me is as there is writing time happening, just a quick check-in. This could be
Yeah.
5 minutes or less with a student where we just do a quick check-in. Where are you in the process? Can we zoom into one idea? Especially if they haven't drafted a multi-paragraph, multi-page piece of
Mhm.
writing yet. That can be a very fast, let's zoom into what you've done. And then we've got some one-on-one time to either affirm. I always like to start with an affirmation when
Mhm.
possible, and that's easier to do the more content students have in front of them. But then
Mhm.
also a check-in, can I help you with anything or help be a thought partner? I think that's an easy one to look at, especially if we want to guide toward, hey, we've just been working on using a semicolon to connect two closely related sentences. Are there any that you feel like might make sense to put in here if you haven't used one yet? Let's talk about it. Boom, move us out of that. So, quick check in. I think that's
Yeah, just
one.
listening to you talk like that, it's just the relationship that you're building with students as you're having these conferences and even just these quick check-ins, it's you're no longer the teacher as much as you are a partner with them, right?
Mm,
They're writing.
yes.
And I think that's important for them to see too. And I when I think as a professional writer, the relationship I have with my editor, he does not fix my writing. He does make recommendations sometimes, or he'll wordsmith some things for me if I ask him to, but it's more about he has questions like, hey, I'm not real sure what you mean by this, or I think this part needs a little bit more. What else could you say? Or he'll ask questions. So really, I see my editor as my writing partner. And I think that's important for kids to see their teachers as not only their teacher, but as a writing partner as well.
Yeah,
So one of our
what other
conferences,
types of conferencing do you think?
we could focus just on the application writing, right? So if they're
Yeah,
in the process
we
and
could.
they're applying that pattern into another piece of writing in some way, we could really focus the conferences on how are you applying that? And if we're noticing that they are struggling with that, we can give them some different strategies to help with that, to apply that in multiple settings. Or if they're doing it well, we can notice and name what they're doing and then link that
Yes.
to other settings for them. Okay, so you're doing this here. You could also do it when you write about this or when you write in this genre. Linking that for them is another way that we could do that. We could,
Yeah, and what I hear you doing here is opening the door for possibility,
yes.
giving that writer some clear options to move forward with, which
Mhm.
should be another goal of ours as we interact with that student. They're going to walk away with clarity around what's next, what
Yeah.
options exist. And I love that idea of have you thought about, or maybe you could try that open-ended thinking, not of, hey, go back and add
And
this
do this.
here,
Yeah.
which sometimes in the mode of efficiency, I've got
Mhm.
3 minutes in here for this, and then I got to get to the next one. It's easy to get drawn into that, but I think opening the door for possibility, we can always check back in later or see in their final draft or ask them to think about all the feedback they received and talk about what they did with that.
Sometimes it's hard when they are using it with effective craft. If they're using that pattern and they're doing a great job with it, sometimes we're like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with that student now. And so noticing and naming what they're doing and pointing that out to them, and then talking about how to deepen that in some way or how to use it in a different way or a different type of sentence, even, or in different content or different genre, I think is a great way to push them a little bit if they already are doing well with that pattern.
We might do if students maybe we see some issues, we're going to
Hmm.
see some of those issues very clearly, or
Yeah.
we maybe are confused about some aspect of their writing. If I want to zero in on that, I like to, something that I think, would want to present to you as a listener to think about is asking questions rather than telling,
Hmm. Hmm.
rather than when you move into, hey, this, I don't quite understand this, to key in on that questioning protocol. I'm questioning in order to gain more knowledge and understanding. So, talk to me about this choice that you made here, or tell me more about what your purpose is in this paragraph. We have a line of questioning in all the patterns resources that can focus on grammar, but also I think crosses over into broader questioning just about writing
Hmm.
in general. I think the more comfortable you get with those questions, that's where I can get some clarity on is the student trying out something that is maybe new to them? Are they trying out something that they've seen elsewhere in a piece of writing? Or is it something I don't know? Or did I
Right.
make a mistake? I think that's going to be a different set of guidance based on what I get from that student in feedback. And I think that also strengthens that understanding of this is a partnership. I'm here to better understand your message. This is what I'm getting from it.
Well, and I think when we ask these questions, talk to me about your choice to do this, or why did you choose to not do this? What we're doing is we're that Walt Whitman quote, be curious, not judgmental. So
Yeah.
often we want to judge right away when we're going in, oh, that student's not using any periods. Instead of that, we can go in and talk about why did you choose to put a period here? Or why did you choose to not use punctuation? I just have one time I was working with my daughter and I noticed she had a capital B every time she used, this was in third grade. Every time she had a B, it was capitalized. My judgmental side was like, oh my gosh, why is she doing that? She knows better. Blah, blah, blah. I asked her, why did you choose to capitalize this, make this be a capital in this word? And I said, and I noticed you did it here and here too. Talk to me about your choice to do that. And her response was, Mom, when I make a lowercase b, I don't know which way it goes. So I can move a lot faster if I just use a capital B. And right there, I was like, she had a purpose. There was a reason for that. And if we're not curious and we don't ask these questions, we might misunderstand something that they really are doing something for a reason sometimes. And that's our way to find that out. I really
Oh,
like the be
I
curious,
love
not
that.
judgmental.
Yes. If you want to think about
Yeah.
efficiency, we're gonna highlight if we can, when we
Yep.
can, something that we find is effective. Name that, what they're doing.
Yes.
We're gonna ask questions for guidance, suggest some follow-ups. I'm gonna focus on one or maybe two teaching points with them.
Hmm.
I don't want
Yeah.
to overload them, but I want to give them some options to move forward with. And I really like to end, oftentimes I'll just use a sticky note, either
Hmm.
have them write or I'll write, here are some possible next steps for you. Leave them with that sticky note. Then I know that we have clarity in where we're going to go next or where they're going to go next. And that gives them some independence to be able to work on their own to move forward.
Well, and for that efficiency also is just having that predictable structure of that conference of what you're going to do every time you sit down with that student. And the student
Yes.
knows what that looks like, you know what that looks like, and you can move through it very quickly. It starts with that research. You're either reading what the student wrote or listening to a piece of they're pointing out something that they're doing. You're listening in some way and
Mhm.
figuring out what is going on. What is something that they are doing that you can name, and then what is something that they can learn in this conference as well. So I always like take a moment to do a quick itty bitty bit of research, name something that they're doing, because we always start with that positive. This is what you're doing as a writer already. And now this is something that you can do next, or this is something that I can teach you to continue this work at a deeper level and then leaving them, either giving them a chance to try it out with you or leaving them with that sticky note, that little wrap up of that strategy they can continue to work with. I think it's important to follow just some kind of predictable structure. It makes you move through more efficiently.
Do you want to talk about just some sustainability practices as we bring this episode toward a close?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is that you will never get to every single student in one class period, ever. So don't even try to destroy yourself over that or worry about
Hmm.
that. You get to as many students as you can. And then the next day, you get to as many students as you can. I think it's important that during that time that you are with students, it's about that student in that moment and keeping it definitely more conversational than evaluative is really important.
Yeah, I would also suggest with this sustainability practice, finding a record keeping strategy that works for you, that makes sense for
Mhm.
you,
Yes.
and continually using that. So I know for me, sometimes it was the easiest to just have a the seating chart copied in a manila folder, and then I would have my sticky notes for every conference. I'd have blank sticky notes by every kid. As I got to them, it was where we were in the conference and some feedback so that I could follow up. There are some easy ways to digitally make this work, maybe through your own Google Forms, through a Google Doc.
Google Docs seems to be a really common one that I see when I go into classrooms. And what's
Hmm.
nice about that is if you have paraprofessionals that are coming in as well, or any kind of co-teachers, ESL support, then those teachers can hop into that Google Doc as well. And all of the note taking is in one place, which is really nice when you have multiple teachers coming into your classroom for support. And then all of that documentation's in one place that can be used later for reflection and conversations if needed in meetings. I think too, when we think about conferences, goal setting. We talked about self-reflection in the last episode, and we can use a lot of that self-reflection to help our students set goals. So that's just another kind of conference that we can have as well. It's a goal setting conference with our
Yes.
students, and based on a self-reflection that they've done, okay, now let's set a goal. I had a teacher that I worked with at one school, and she had her students set two goals for writing. One was based on the unit that they were in, and then the other one was based on the patterns of power patterns that they had studied. And so they went back to their class editing checklist and their focus phrases, and they used those to help set a personal goal on something they wanted to work on over the next 2 to 3 weeks. They would write one thing that they really wanted to focus on that sticky note and put it on their writing notebook. And then, of course, their unit goal as well. So, as a coach, when I would come into her classroom, they would all have their goals right there. I would sit down with the third grader and be like, oh, I see your grammar goal is to really focus on using compound sentences. Can you show me where you've used a compound sentence and why? And that would kick off our conferences there. So it was more of a check-in for me, but I could really use their goals to direct the conference in that way and teach them how to take those steps a little bit deeper too.
That's an impressive hack into having a guided conference.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that is could be a practice easily elementary or secondary
Mhm.
classrooms. As we're about to get into this writing piece, let's make some goals, however many we make. Any of those can become a focal point or a touch point for a
Yeah.
conference. It's
And I
really
know,
smart.
Travis, I know like you really like to have your students prepared for the conference. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. When I think another just efficiency hack for me as I was thinking about trying to make the most of that time together, if we would get into a multi-draft written piece, maybe longer than a page, multi-paragraph, definitely. I would set students up for success by having them revisit their draft, key in on maybe something that they're doing effectively to be able to tell me so that I could affirm that piece for them, as well as something that they want to focus in on for some feedback. What is it that I can help you with, or that we can focus on and have a deeper conversation with together to guide you forward in a positive direction? If I knew that this was a focal point for them or something that they wanted to enhance, now we could get right into, okay, here's what I see you have. Here are some options that exist. Now you have those options. They're on the sticky note. Now you've got some focused writing time to work on that thing. If a student said, I don't know, that might be either an opportunity for student to student conferences, which we'll talk about in another episode, to guide them toward that. Oftentimes, students are great at evaluating and judging each other's writing and knowing exactly where there might be some points for enhancement. The more that we practice with this, the less students said, I don't know,
Mhm.
the more they had some focal points. Yeah.
Well, and as they prepare, I know that we're going to talk about student to student conferences later, but that preparation can prepare them for those conferences too, and really
Yes.
make it more student led learning as opposed to the teacher led.
All right. Your listener, specific next steps, thinking about types of conferences. Where could a conference fit in this upcoming unit, whatever you're working on right now? Think about your preparation and student preparation for a conference. Thinking about a some sort of protocol that you want to create that's going to be predictable. If you already have one, using the content that you gained in this episode to affirm and possibly revise that. And then thinking about what record keeping strategy is going to be most effective for you, as well as the other professionals that you're collaborating with on your campus. So, great food for thought.
This is my favorite part of writing. Teaching writing is the conferring piece. It just makes me feel so much more connected to the students when I get to work with them one on one or even in a small group. Sometimes as I'm just doing walking around doing check-ins, I'm noticing I have several kids that need the same thing. And so all of a sudden that conference becomes a small group conference where I could give them all that one strategy and it can be pretty quick.
We hope that this has benefited your understanding of or affirmed your work with, or has helped to revise your future work with teacher to student writing conferences. All right,
Thank you
y'all.
for listening.
Peace out.